righty, all right. Well, thank you for coming. As I think you know, the mayor has issued an executive order under the emergency powers that the mayor has during this COVID crisis. It's to take effect at 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday after this weekend. And it essentially is designed to limit occupancy by law in various places of public accommodation throughout the city. The limit is to 25%, in most places, and in some places a limit at 50 people max for a particular room or space. This is something, of course, that the mayor has been monitoring for, throughout the COVID crisis as to how things are at. Things are spiking. Death rates are increasing, and hospitalizations are increasing to a point where the mayor felt that something needed to be done in order to curb that spike. This is a temporary order. It currently is set to expire on early morning hours of Tuesday, December 15th, and may be extended if need be, but it's the hope of the mayor, I know, this will curb the spike, and perhaps something stays in place, but something a little less restrictive than the 25%. This week, he felt it was important to take some action on it. He was encountering situations, a lot of voluntary, businesses voluntarily complying with the requirements for social distancing and safe COVID practices, but it's a lot of pressure on a lot of the businesses. A lot of the bars and restaurants are feeling a lot of economic pressure as a result of these, the COVID situation. And so there's a sort of a lack of consistency throughout the town, and so it seemed appropriate to set the bar for everyone to comply, and then secondly to put some teeth in behind it. This is an order that's authorized by the mayor under the city's emergency powers ordinance. Violations are an infraction. That's a criminal offense that can be charged out in municipal court. The maximum penalty is a $1,000 fine. The fine amount itself is set by the judge. As to facilities that have liquor licenses, their licenses require them to comply with laws and rules of the city as well, and so it's certainly possible that if somebody were flagrantly violating this, that the city commission might schedule a hearing and make a decision as to whether or not it was violated, and if so, whether perhaps a suspension of a day or two or perhaps longer might be imposed as a punishment for that violation. The hope is that none of that will happen, but that's basically the genesis behind this order. I know that the chief is going to speak, and then Chris Oman from the health department as well that might be able to discuss other aspects of it. Are you next, Chris?
Yes.
We can take questions, of course, when we're done.
So like Eric said, my name is Chris Oman. I work for Fargo-Cass Public Health. I'm an environmental health practitioner. I'm here to explain Fargo-Cass Public Health's role in the new executive order. Under the Mayor's Emergency Executive Order, Fargo-Cass Public Health's Environmental Health Division will function in a proactive role to provide education to businesses and other settings that could host gatherings where the size would exceed the limits under the order. The education will include specifics from the Mayor's order as well as COVID-19 risk mitigation measures, which we've been providing throughout the pandemic. If we're made aware of an event that would not be in compliance with the order, we'll contact the facility hosting that event and make them aware of the parameters set forth by the new executive order. We will then clarify the occupancy maximums of the order. Once the education has been provided, Environmental Health will notify the police department of the event so they can monitor and ensure it meets compliance with the order. Prior to the order's implementation Monday, Environmental Health staff are going to contact the local restaurants, bars, churches, funeral homes, and event centers to ensure they receive the proper education behind the order and are made aware of all of the limitations behind it.
Sure. There's been a lot of collaboration and a lot of thought put into this process in terms of what can, I guess, the efficacy of the order by city attorney, public health, the police department, and the mayor's office, and also the efficacy of the enforcement piece. So for the police department's part, of course, we stand ready to assist with the enforcement of the order. During the course of our discussions and analysis on this, and in terms of what's our best, most positive opportunity to help ensure public safety during this pandemic, we are aware of some potential establishments that may not be currently following the recommendations, the mandate, and so this order really adds that enforcement piece to that and provides the police department an opportunity to take action on those particular licensed premises that may have crowds exceeding the limitations. And of course, as Public Health just said, we'll work collectively with them to identify other locations and of course seek voluntary compliance first, but if not, we will have an enforcement mechanism to ensure that we are doing everything we can to support public health during this particular situation. Thank you. Oh, and I guess I would add one other thing. Just for public edification. Again, we'll be working with our partners. We are aware of some locations, but the department does not have resources to address calls for service regarding this, so we won't be necessarily responding to calls for service relative to this order. We'll be working with our own observations. Our officers are out there every day observing businesses and licensed premises, and we'll be working collectively with public health to identify other locations. So we ask for the cooperation of our public in that venture as well. Thank you.
Yeah, any questions? Can answer. I know the mayor is available for questions too. He couldn't attend in person. Yep. Yes, sir.
Yes, this might be for the chief. For example, I drove past Old Broadway last night. I don't know if the gas station was really busy or if ladies' night was in full effect. Are you going to go bust up these events right away, or are you just going to address it at a later time?
Yeah, I think as Chris alluded to, that there's conversations that will be occurring with our local establishments, and as I also referenced, there are some places in which we are aware that those types of things are happening. So, you know, as we collaborated and discussed what's the best way to approach this, and I think we came to a reasonable conclusion that we needed some enforcement, but again, we have to enforce with discretion. And I think we have to provide the opportunity for compliance before we take such action. But at the end of the day, if we've made contact with an establishment that's clearly violating the order and they are refusing to comply, then yes, the police department would take enforcement action.
Immediately or at a later time?
Well, the violation would be referred to the city attorney's office for review. Unless it was apparent that, you know, because the capacity was so great that we had to evacuate or close down essentially the business, and the police department has the authority to do that as well. So if we would come into an establishment that is brazenly in violation and it's packed and all these people are in there, we approach the proprietor and they are not willing to assist us in diminishing the amount of people in the establishment, we may well shut them down and order everyone out of the establishment. And under the ordinance, we have that authority as well. Now, obviously, that is not our preferred methodology. We are extremely hopeful that with this additional piece of enforcement, that we will get greater voluntary compliance from some of the establishments. Because at the end of the day, we want to keep, I know the mayor does too, wants to keep as many businesses open and functioning as possible within these parameters. Okay, you got it.
Yes, it affects funerals and weddings and services, yes.
Are there other things being considered by the city at this time? You know, the Grand Forks Institute occurred a few months long ago. We were told that was under consideration about a week ago. So are any other measures being considered at this point?
Yeah, well, I think the mayor considered, you know, what some of the other cities have been doing in terms of a early shutdown, 11 p.m. shutdown or something like that. You know, he analyzed that with the help of the health department's analysis of the numbers, and he just felt that the best way would be this kind of limitation of occupancy in terms of just truly trying to curb things, and so opted for this rather than an early closure order. And other things that are being considered, yeah, I think kind of anything's on the table. There's some discussion about what to do with masks, which currently are, recommended strongly by the mayor, and that same recommendation has been approved by the city commission at their August 10th meeting. It's still in effect that people are admonished to wear masks when they can't have social distancing. The question is whether they should put that into some format where there's a penalty for non-compliance. I think that's just an ongoing discussion that people are wondering about as they see the things spike and trying to get people under control. I think for the mayor, he's seeing that there's a lot of voluntary compliance and is pleased to see that. It's certainly not 100%, but the question is what to do in order to get people to comply with safe practices as best as possible. He felt this was the best approach for now. Yeah.
What are the current numbers in hospitalization in cities with public health?
They're actually, I think, in the order. At least as of yesterday. This order was, if you look at the very bottom of the first page here, Barry. Health Department for North Dakota, 10,400 active cases as of, today. It was updated to today, I guess. 707 deaths. Hospitalization numbers aren't in here, but there's reference in here to the fact that hospitalizations are high. But the dashboard on the North Dakota Smart Restart dashboard, I think, has hospitalization numbers in there, and certainly the death tolls. Those are the two main factors that the mayor, felt strongly are the indicator that caused him to feel like this is appropriate at this stage. Yes, sir.
You said you were going to throw some more teeth. Are those teeth actually going to bite? How strongly is this going to be enforced, or is this just a feel-good declaration?
Well, I think there are a couple of aspects to it. One is, I think the hope is that the fact that it does have teeth behind it, there is a penalty for non-compliance, and there will be enforcement. The health department is going to be contacting established facilities that will be subject to this and advising them of it and asking for their compliance. The health department has had those conversations throughout the COVID crisis, but it'll be a recontacted to make sure they understand that this is serious. And so hopefully there will be voluntary compliance just because they're made aware of it and made aware that, if I'm thinking I'm going to keep doing this until I'm told I can't do it any longer, in other words, allow too many people in, we're now telling you can't. And so hopefully they will then voluntarily comply that way. But the reality is, yes, the city is prepared to take the action as is provided in the order itself, both the pursuit of a charge in municipal court for the infraction, and secondly, to the extent that they have a liquor license, take action on the liquor license where there's a violation. This is not a situation where anybody from the city is going to go try to play any game of gotcha or anything like that. This is really we're thinking it's where there are flagrant violations, and those are the kind of things that we want to be able to take serious action on. But on a kind of an advising basis with the vast majority.
So who would you go after then? The owner, the manager at the time?
Yeah, it'd be the
And what is the penalty?
it'd be the proprietor, the business that operates the particular facility would be the person that would be the subject of enforcement action.
And what is the penalty?
Again, it's an infraction carries a maximum penalty of a $1,000 fine. If there's a liquor license that's involved, their liquor license may be subject to some kind of censure by the city commission, perhaps a suspension of their privileges for a period of time, whether that's a couple of days or something else will be up to the city commission to decide. But that's certainly a possibility. City commissions have in the past taken that type of action on violators. I'm not talking about COVID related, but in the past.
So the city commission meets every 2 weeks. Will there be special meetings if they're flagrant or?
Yeah, I think there's certainly that possibility that the special meeting would be scheduled just to handle an event like this. It's a little bit of a unique situation where it's a little hard to put a hearing type of arrangement that this would be in the middle of a normal city commission business meeting. So it wouldn't surprise me if a special city commission meeting were scheduled for that purpose, should that happen.
And this is very similar to Minnesota rules.
Yes, yep, but when the mayor asked me to put something like this together, I kind of scanned occupancy limit orders in various locations throughout the country and you know, ended up latching upon the Minnesota order as sort of a framework for the structure of it. And so that's where it came from.
Yeah, with them being right across the border, it makes sense.
Right, that was part of it as well, yeah. Some uniformity there. Their order has a lot of elements in it that this does not have, but this was intended to be sort of focused on the problem that we're trying to solve.
And then Chief, you're from Wisconsin, you're having major troubles there. Have you talked to any of your friends there is this something similar, or are they having to crack down too?
To be honest with you, I've been so busy here, I haven't followed Wisconsin,
I
so,
understand that.
yeah, no, I actually know what they're doing down there.
He doesn't have any friends back there because he now has to be a Vikings fan.
They all left, they all deserted him.
I still have friends. But, okay.
When it comes to enforcing this in churches, you mentioned the weddings and funerals. Is there any worry about that conflicting with, city and things like that? Is there any worry about that on city parts?
You know, that's always an issue that you think about when you're putting some regulation out in place, but this is, no, I don't think that this should be an issue here where it's just a limitation of occupancy, nothing prohibiting the services from occurring in every other way possible.
How many violations do you think are out? How many, establishments do you feel are violating? Is it a widespread problem, or is it just maybe a select few that you've seen from your observation?
Yeah. Chris, I don't know, you might be in a better position to say that. I'm in my office lawyering every day, but so you might give you a feel for it. I think the answer is that there's a widespread attempt to comply with good social distancing and the recommended practices. I don't think there's an awful lot that would be in flagrant violation by any means. Now, bear in mind that the standards have been 50%, and sometimes this is 25%. So this is maybe a little bit of a different situation going forward in the city of Fargo.
Are you afraid people may start going to Grand Forks now? Because yesterday they upped their bar and restaurant capacity. Are you afraid of people going to Grand Forks and then just bring the virus back and forth on I-29? Not allowing events up to 500 people.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the problems you try to deal with this, is that people make independent decisions and they go wherever they decide to go and possibly bring back an infectious disease, but the methodology
As an order, you can either have 25% or that 50 number, whichever is less.
This might be a question for you, Chris. I haven't looked at the schedule yet. I know it came out the other day. Can this impact attendance at NDSU basketball games here coming up?
So we're looking into that. I know the state is potentially looking into those larger venues as well. There's nothing firm that we've seen. Currently, our recommendation is the 50 people or 25% capacity, whichever is less, is our current recommendation there as public health officials.
Can they come, so if they have a game and this is still continuing, it's not a recommendation anymore, it's an ordinance. So would they have to come to you then? And are you
Yes.
granting special permits and stuff? If they say, hey, we want to get 500 people in here.
There are caveats in the executive order for those sporting events that have governing bodies where they do need to work with us. We are still supporting events of 50 people or 25%, whichever is less. But if those entities own that number and they have proper risk mitigation strategies in place, they're allowed to host those events. It's just, as FargoCast Public Health stance, we're going to recommend 50 people or 25%.
Is there any thought about extending this to schools?
Yeah, just to clarify, Chris, the order itself, if you look at the 2B Romanet 4 there regarding activities of schools and so forth, the limitation on events is 25% without the 50% not, you know, in the order itself. So 25% is the rule for school type sanctioned activities, competitions, sports, things of that nature under this order. You know, I might also add that, you know, there are, you know, we drafted this order based on what we could anticipate. It's certainly something that as additional information comes in about specific circumstances, under this order itself, the mayor kind of reserves the right to make some clarifications, and that certainly is possible. That may be necessary. It's difficult to do an across-the-board thing that doesn't create something that seems to need addressing, and the mayor certainly is able to do that.
So Eric, you think everybody's gonna pretty much come in line? Is that your feeling?
Yeah, I mean, that is my sense, that everyone will come in line. I think Fargo's shown to be very compliant with the rules that we set, and you know, it's tough. You make a lot of decisions on a day-to-day basis as to whether to attend this or not, and certainly people across the city have changed their behavior, and we hope that they will clamp down on themselves at this time, particularly because it's at such a spike situation, and the chances of infection are even greater than they were. You know, the city flattened the curve in the spring of the year, along with the state, and unfortunately that involved a more massive shutdown. Nobody wants to do that, but it did happen, and the hope is that by putting some reasonable measures in place that people are asked to comply with uniformly, that the same thing can happen. I think the mayor is very optimistic that will happen, and that will be the consequence of this, you know, along with whatever other measures seem to come along and are needed.
Anybody have any last questions? Yeah, Chris, nationally, they're saying that a lot of states, 18 to 35-year-old people. Is that what you're seeing, Dennis?
We're seeing a spike in that age group currently. We're worried about any gatherings, period, whether it be young, old, in between. So this measure will help reduce that and help mitigate the risk.
One last question. This is a big, you know, time when a lot of businesses cash in on holiday parties and stuff like that. Is there any financial assistance that's going to be? I know the state has a resiliency grant. Are you going to be doing anything like that happened back in the spring where, you know, electric bills, you know, could be deferred or anything like that just because they're going to...
Yeah, there's nothing in this order that provides for that. Yes, you're correct in identifying what the state is coming out with, but no, nothing in this order regarding that.
Well, I know nothing more, but is the city working on any financial assistance for businesses that will definitely
I guess I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that question.
One final question. Coming up the holiday season, with enforcement against churches, with an infraction by a church, would that be met with a fine as well? Fine the church, or how would you handle that sort of enforcement? Because holiday season is typically
Right.
the largest time.
Well, candidly, we just really expect that you know, that they will comply voluntarily. Again, we're going to have health department will be talking to those people, and we're just very confident that it doesn't even go there. That's the answer, I think.
Anyone need one-on-one out there?
Thank you. I was thinking.